All right. Our first fight of the night is Alexander the Cannibal Pantoja coming in at 23-5, fighting in the flyweight division. That's 125, folks. He's coming in at 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. This cannonball of a dude is wild in the cage, coming off a solid victory off Manel Comp, especially after 265, where he had that flying knee that everybody saw. I was all over the internet. That was badass. But yeah, he took that dub. And then before that, Askar Askarov, solid fighter, really good. One of those, what is like Uzbekistan, Middle Eastern? One of those dudes.
No, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, it feels like this past year have been putting some guys through that are some serious contenders. And you're absolutely right about Askarov. That's legit at 125.
He's definitely in the running for a title fight here pretty soon. Speaking of title fights, he came off a decision loss to Davidson Figueiredo. So impressive that he was able to go the distance with Davidson. So other than that, I mean, he has a victory over the champ, Brandon Moreno. So without saying anything more about Alexandre Pantoja, he's a fucking beast. He's a brawler. We'll get into breakdown a little bit later, but let's talk about his counterpart this weekend. We're talking about the raw dog, Brandon Royval, coming in at 12-5. This flyweight's coming in at 5'9" with a 71.5-inch reach. Homeboy is also very good. He's coming off a loss to the champion, and then has two solid wins against Tim Elliott and Kai Car-France. Not to get too far into analysis with Brandon Royval, he's actually pretty good at submissions, as you can see, guillotine, arm triangle, arm bar, and another arm bar. So this is going to be a very interesting fight. I think this is a great fight to lead off the main card. Zach?
No, absolutely. These guys are both still relatively young and both still looking to make a statement with a victory here. Looking kind of more at some analysis, you look at this and you see for 125 pounds, for what we like to call the bitch face baby made division, or the baby face bitch made division, something like that. We don't like to watch flyweight fights usually, but I have a feeling this one's going to be really exciting because you look at Pantoja and he's your guy that's considered the bigger brooding guy. He's the guy that comes forward the whole fight. He's got that one punch KO power, and he hunts for that knockout from the first bell to the last bell. So even his fights that go to decision, he seems to be winning based on an accumulation of damage and an accumulation of just high output and high pressure, which is going to be interesting because his opponent, Brandon Royval, is also a flyweight known for having an incredibly high output. I think when you look at the ground, Pantoja has some submissions, but Royval is probably the better grappler. He probably has the ground game advantage. He's just creative, man. He's just kind of tricky from the ground. And I don't know how else other to describe that than he's one of those guys that sometimes will give his back to get up if he's in a defensive position. But when he's in an offensive position, he's looking for submissions from everywhere, from every angle. And he's just as good on the feet, man. He fights out of the southpaw stance and he throws one like a badass left roundhouse kick that he likes to lead with into combinations. And I just like his game, man. His combination of ground game and stand-up work shows a pretty well-rounded mixed martial artist for me for being so young in age. So I'm going Brandon Royval here. I think, I don't know, maybe a decision, but I'm going Brandon Royval.
I love your analysis, actually, Zach. I think you hit it on the head a couple times about a few points. I think your analysis over Pantoja's stand-up game, absolutely spot on. That's what I had to say, too. I couldn't say it any better. But one thing that you didn't mention about Pantoja is he actually has great wrestling defense, which I think is kind of going to be the X factor here in this fight. I think that if he's able to stay up, I think he takes this fight. I think he can compete and do a lot more damage on the feet. I think Brandon Royval's game is going to be more predicated on getting him to the ground, try to do some submissions or some GMP. I think he's initially going to think that he's going to stand up with Pantoja, but I think once he feels Pantoja's power in quotation marks for 125 pounds, of course.
Yeah.
But I think once he feels Pantoja's power, he's not going to like it too much. And I think Pantoja's combinations are just going to be a little bit too much for him. So I'm going to go with Pantoja here. I like his aggressive style, even though they both have aggressive styles. I think Pantoja is just a little bit more of a wild man.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to see a lot of strikes thrown between the two of them. I think we're probably going to see a good few heavy strikes eaten from both of them. And I think this is just going to be, heavy for 125 pounds. Man, if you're a flyweight in the UFC, we promise we don't hate y'all this much. We just historically don't like watching your fights that much. Flyweights, women's featherweights. I don't know, man. It's a toss up for me. Pretty equally as boring.
But Zach, over under that both flyweights step on the scale. Are they weighing more or less than you?
Both flyweights on the scale
versus you on the scale.
I was about to say I got back to the gym a little bit, and they're still less than me by pretty substantial amount. I'd give them a good 15 pounds probably.
Jesus.
And you know what the sad part is? I still whoop both of their asses like a bunch of redheaded stepchildren.
All right, give this video a like if you want to see Zach in the cage versus Alexandre Pantoja versus and Brandon Moreno, or not Brandon Moreno. God damn it. Where the fuck this guy named Brandon Royval versus Zach.
Yeah, I was about to say they got a super heavyweight division for a reason. Who's to say you can't do a 2-on-1? That's what I mean. I'll fucking pound both of these pussies like an analogy that's not coming to my head right now. But I guess that gives us a pretty good segue into the odds after we just took a nice sized dump on the head of these gentlemen.
Oh, that was awesome. It's all good and fun here. Where are we at? That's Bellator. All right. So Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. Pantoja, the best you can get him at is minus 170 as the favorite. And then his counterpart, Brandon Royval, underdog at plus 155. Zach, I'll open it up to you.
I was about to say, what is irony other than seeing me open this fight card with a pretty decent sized underdog and you taking the favorite? It just seems topsy-turvy. It just seems backwards. But
yeah, it is.
I don't know, man. I'm not particularly confident that there's going to be a stoppage in this fight so that the fight goes to decision at minus 122. I don't think those odds are horrible at all. I think that's worth a play. I think that's worth a toss. And then, like I said, man, maybe you don't see Royval getting submitted too often. His ground game from the defensive perspective is pretty good, but maybe Pantoja by submission. I don't know. What's that at plus 550?
I don't like that, dude. I think that's awful. I would not. Yeah. Pantoja by submission, that's a no-go on my book, bro.
I guess I'm just looking for something here because I'm not seeing anything jump off the page. I always like to give just a feeler, but you're right. I don't really care too much for it either. It's just got those are the tempting ones where it tosses you some pretty good odds and you can convince yourself that the actions will be conceivable. Yeah, Pantoja could totally win by submission. And then you throw $7,500 down the drain because you just had to play the props.
I mean, if you're going to go Pantoja by submission for that, might as well go Pantoja wins by TKO on the flip side. Like, not together, obviously, but I mean, I would say there's a higher probability of Pantoja by TKO at plus 450.
I was about to say those odds are pretty similar. They're both plus money.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with their flyweights, they don't have that much power, even though I was kind of hyping up Pantoja. But I think the safe bet here is the fight goes to decision.
Yeah, I think, fight goes to decision is the one that we're going to pretty confidently stick with.
Is it a good decision with you?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think in my head, this fight is going to be a banger. It's going to go the distance. But this isn't one of those ones that I think will leave going, oh, that was a split decision, the judges robbed him, I think we're going to know who won pretty definitively at the end of this one.
I mean, this is also two top 10 guys, I believe, and they're pretty young and they have credibility. I think this is kind of not a title eliminator, but contender eliminator.
No, I agree, especially because 125, as in all seriousness, no just shitting on the flyweights for no reason. It's not the deepest division in the UFC by any means at all. You're looking at Moreno doesn't even know who he's going to fight next at this point. He could run the trilogy with Figgy. Cody Garbrandt just entered the division. Askarov, like you talked about, is liable to get that next title fight. But outside of there, like him and Figueiredo have pretty much beaten everybody else up in that division. So introducing some new blood will be good for the flyweights, I think, ultimately in the end.